fight back. They don't like that. Just know if you rock the boat, you better have a life raft. Woo!
What up, everybody in the YTBC? Just want to do a quick video talking about, I guess, the aftermath of Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. Give my thoughts on some things that are being said. I already kind of did a video talking about this, but there are things I didn't touch on, and I'm really gonna do my best not to touch on anything that I touched on my 37-minute video in regards to this fight. So since the fight, some of the numbers have come out. As far as I know, this doesn't include any of the pay-per-view buys over in the UK, and it's looking like, I guess, 400,000 pay-per-view buys or 450,000 pay-per-view buys. Honestly, not bad for the first pay-per-view in America from either of these guys. I don't know if Tyson Fury has fought on pay-per-view over in the UK before, but this is definitely his first pay-per-view over here. Same thing with Deontay Wilder. And of course, when you start talking about these numbers and you start talking about these guys just in general, you are going to get some comparisons to Anthony Joshua. And depending on who you're listening to, you may get a lot of propaganda thrown in there, or you may not. I'm going to try to be as objective as I possibly can and try to point out some things that I don't really hear many people talking about. All right, so a lot of people are comparing this to Anthony Joshua's first pay-per-view. If I'm not mistaken, it's been a while. I want to say his first pay-per-view was against Charles Martin, and I believe it did 500,000 pay-per-view buys over in the UK. Now, you can't just take a look at that and say, well, he did better than Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, because over in the UK, pay-per-views are cheaper. Now, of course, this is in British pounds, so it gets to be a little bit hairy, because you have to figure out, well, what was the amount of pounds that it cost for that pay-per-view, and what did that convert to in US dollars at that time. It's a very good possibility that this fight made more money than Anthony Joshua's first pay-per-view. It's very possible, just given the fact that this pay-per-view was $75, and I hear people saying, well, if it was $20 like AJ's first one in the UK, then it would have made more money. We don't really know that the equivalent was $20. I think it was more like 30, 35, but I don't know. I'm letting you know right now. I do not know, therefore I will not claim to act like I know, like some people will do. So that is my guesstimate. Keep in mind, I do actually work in finance. I actually deal quite a bit with foreign currency. So I kind of have an idea of what the British pound is to the dollar. And in the past 10 years that I've been working in finances, the British pound is always worth more than the US dollar. By a good margin as far as currency is concerned. But like I said, there is a possibility that this fight actually did make more money, and then we're not even taking into account the buys from the UK. So I haven't heard anything on the numbers on that, but I'm thinking that this fight made more money than AJ's first pay-per-view. Now, there are some other things you have to take into account. So we're talking about a heavyweight champion who's been champion for what? like 4 years, something like that. I'm not really sure. I can't remember exactly how long Deontay Wilder's been champion, but you're talking about somebody who's a proven heavyweight champion to a certain extent, versus a guy who is known as the lineal champion. So these are supposed to be big names. At the time that Anthony Joshua fought for the IBF championship against Charles Martin, well, Anthony Joshua was Charles Martin's first defense. He had no, fights after he won the championship. And the thing is, he won that championship quite controversially. I remember because he won it by beating Glazkov, and I want to say it was in the second or third round. Glazkov couldn't continue. It was a stoppage because he broke his foot. He got knocked down by Charles Martin and he broke his foot. There was a big controversy about that because, given the fact that he was injured before the fifth round, it's supposed to go to the cards, but it didn't. They just said, that it was a TKO. They ruled it a TKO in favor of Charles Martin. So Anthony Joshua really was going up against an unproven champion. Okay. And not only that, but Charles Martin was never a big name over here. Certainly not a big name over there. So Anthony Joshua had to sell his pay-per-view purely on his own back and the fact that it was a heavyweight title match. The other thing you have to take into account is that was his title shot, whereas, it was only like his 15th fight, if I'm not mistaken. I'm doing everything off the top of my head, so whenever I give these numbers as far as like how many fights or whatever, you might want to give or take a fight. Just being honest with you. But that was, he hadn't been a champion at all at that point. Deontay Wilder's been champion for years. He's had, and not only that, but Deontay Wilder, this was his 41st fight. Anthony Joshua, he had only had like 13, 14, maybe 15 fights when he fought Charles Martin. So he didn't have anywhere near as long to build his name, to build his marquee value. Now, I'm not saying you can't compare numbers. I'm just saying if you're going to compare numbers, you have to compare everything, not just what is convenient. I'm not here to really try to spit propaganda. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I am pro Anthony Joshua through and through. But like I said, that's why I'm letting you know, hey, it is possible that this fight made more money than his first pay-per-view. It is. It would be disingenuous for me to omit that information. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm pretty sure it did make more money. Even with, and that's taking into account, that the British pound is worth more than the US dollar and everything. And you have to understand why, that's why it gets hairy, because see, over in the UK, the reason why their pay-per-views are lower, they're cheaper, it has nothing to do with supply and demand. It has to do with the fact that here in the States, when we watch a pay-per-view, there are no advertisements other than the ones that are decorated in the ring, on the ring and the arena. You'll see, Tecate on the ring, or whoever, Budweiser, PlayStation 4, whatever. Whoever has paid money to, advertise in the arena, in the ring, that's it. You don't see actual advertisements. You don't have commercial breaks on our pay-per-views, whereas in the UK they do. So because they're making money off of the advertisements, I mean, yeah, they could be greedy and still charge like 50 or 60 British pounds, and I'm pretty sure 60 British pounds right now would equate to more than $75, by the way. They could do that, but they're already making money off of the advertisements. It's probably more worth their while to keep it lower, because they're going to get more buys and in turn make more money. It's very possible. So take those things into consideration. I don't even like talking about numbers, to be honest, but if we're going to talk about numbers, we do have to look at the whole picture, not just what is convenient. Because yeah, it sounds better when you're saying, well, you know, because the pay-per-views are $75 and over here, and it's $20 when that may not even be true over there. You know, it's way more money, you know, and that's just not, it's not integral. And I'm not saying people are doing that on purpose, but that's why I'm here to kind of let you know, hey, you know, there's other things that kind of come into play. Like I said, Anthony Joshua, he only had like 15 fights when he had his first pay-per-view. Deontay Wilder is 40 fights in and just now doing it. Been a champion for years, just now doing it. So, you know, you can compare them, but you have to be honest about it. You should strive to be honest about it. One other thing that I want to touch on real quick is this misconception. I see a lot of people saying, well, it's not really a misconception, but I think people are kind of putting things out of context, or leaving certain informations out. I see a lot of people saying, well, you know, that Fury is a better fighter than AJ, therefore Deontay Wilder drawing with him means he would beat AJ. Well, first off, if you look at all the rankings, AJ is consistently number one. Not talking about people in the community, not talking about people on YouTube. The major rankings, such as BoxRec, Transatlantic, all those, they consistently have AJ at number one. Because these two guys did not end in one of them winning, one or the other, you really can't, it's a stalemate. All the rankings pretty much stay the same, which leaves Anthony Joshua at the top. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a better fighter than Tyson Fury, or even that he's a better fighter than Deontay Wilder, you know, because at the end of the day, these guys really just have to mix it up for us to truly find out. But here's the thing. If you take a look at common opponents, and I'm focusing specifically on Tyson Fury, because people just, you know, they want to big up Tyson Fury just because he's fighting, or he fought Deontay Wilder, to boost Deontay Wilder. Well, the fact of the matter is, AJ has two common opponents with Fury. And in both cases, Tyson Fury got unanimous decisions. That is against Vladimir Klitschko, and that is against Kevin Johnson. He went the distance with both of them, got unanimous decisions with both of them. All right. Anthony Joshua has fought both of these gentlemen and won by knockout in both cases. Now with Klitschko, it gets a little bit hairy because Klitschko was a little bit older. Not by a lot. A lot of people like to make it seem like it was years after Tyson Fury beat him, and that's simply just not true. But he was a little bit older. You know, and he did knock down Anthony Joshua as well. But that doesn't negate the fact that Anthony Joshua was able to get back up and knock him out. He won by knockout. No matter what anybody tells me, a knockout trumps a decision. It just does. That's one of the biggest arguments with Deontay Wilder fans, is that he's, you know, he knocks out everybody. Well, Anthony Joshua has a high knockout ratio as well. All right. It's just not as high as Deontay Wilder's because he has less fights. So, being that he has less fights, of course, the percentage is going to be lower because he's also knocked out all of his opponents, all but one. Which leads me to Kevin Johnson, who Tyson Fury won by unanimous decision as well. But Anthony Joshua knocked him out in the second round. And when he knocked him out, Kevin Johnson had never been stopped at that point in his career. So I don't get why people are just going to say, well, Anthony Joshua is not a, you know, Tyson Fury is a better fighter than Anthony Joshua. By what logic? Now, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but you have to come with something more substantial than, well, Tyson Fury is a better fighter than Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua is not as good as a fighter as Tyson Fury. How? They have common opponents, and if you take a look at those common opponents, he beat them better. Like I said, I don't care what anybody says. Knockouts trump decisions. Decisions can always be disputed. Look at this fight with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Perfect example. So decisions can always be disputed. Knockouts can't. And I mean, Anthony Joshua, he beat the brakes off of Kevin Johnson. I mean, yeah, Tyson Fury got a decision, but it wasn't as impressive as what AJ did to him. And while we're talking about common opponents, I mean, you could do the same with Deontay Wilder, because they have a common opponent in Eric Molina. Well, we all know how that ended. You know, Deontay Wilder actually didn't look too hot against Molina. Got shook by Molina. Now, ultimately, Deontay Wilder got the win. He knocked him out in the 9th round. But Anthony Joshua did it in 3. Only took him a 3rd. And that's why, you know, and I know you really can't go off of triangle theories completely, but when there's common opponents, you still have to take them into consideration. That's why I still think Anthony Joshua beats both of them. Does he have the same skill set as Tyson Fury? No, he doesn't. Doesn't have the same skill set, but he still has a pretty good skill set. And where he lacks in the skill set that Tyson Fury has, which is better than Deontay Wilder. Keep in mind, Deontay Wilder knocked him down twice. He makes up in power. And where Deontay Wilder has more power than Anthony Joshua, well, Anthony Joshua makes up for it in skill. Which is why, at the end of the day, all 3 guys just have to fight each other. We really don't need to be playing these, you know, gymnastic. I'll call it fanboy gymnastics. We don't really need to be playing this, because at the end of the day, if these dudes just fight, there ain't nothing to debate. We'll see who wins. But I'm not here to try to big up Anthony Joshua, try to change people's minds. I feel that Anthony Joshua can beat both, and that's how I feel. If you feel different, that's perfectly fine. Haplotype 0 has told me multiple times that he has Wilder beating him. And I've told him multiple times that I don't see it the same. But I'm not trying to change his mind. At the end of the day, if the fight happens and Deontay Wilder wins, I'll have to tell Haplotype 0, hey, you knew what you was talking about. Feels the other way around. I think Haplotype 0 is the type of dude who will say, hey, you know, I disagreed with you, but he did it. You know, and you know what? That's perfectly fine. That doesn't mean that I'm better than him or he's better than me. Because you know what? The accomplishments of the fighters that we're fans of, really, in our own accomplishments. Which is why people on YouTube have the problems that they have. They can't accept that their accomplishments in their own lives, they have to live through the accomplishments of others. If Anthony Joshua loses tonight, loses in his next fight, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. It is what it is. But as of right now, I have Anthony Joshua beating both guys. But anyways, I said this was going to be a quick video, and it's been 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. So all my subscribers, anybody watching my videos, or just so happen to stumble on this video, what are your thoughts on the numbers if you want to talk about that? I mean, I'm not a really big fan of that kind of talk, but I'm willing to entertain it a little bit. I do think that both their stocks have risen, and I do think that, they are, especially if they have a rematch, they can solidify that they are somewhat pay-per-view attractions, and definitely give them more of a bargaining chip when going to negotiations with Anthony Joshua. But let me know, what I really would like is for people to let me know what they think about who they think would win. Because like I said, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I've already explained my reasons. Give me yours. Because right now, all I'm seeing is a whole lot of people saying, well, he's not as good as a fighter as Tyson Fury. Well, you might be right, but I don't see it. Why? Are there reasons, or are you just speaking? Are you just giving it an eye test? And that's fine if you are, but I would like something a little bit more substantial. Y'all have a wonderful and blessed day. Peace.
Undefeated.